Hey there, Casey.
Hey, what's up, GE?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Well, I mean, today, of course, we've got another Bible study that we're going to do, and we did go through a pre-show meeting like we normally do, so let me make sure that I got shit squared away. You know how hard I am, trying to get this shit right. So
I know.
That makes it a lot shorter and everything. Anyways, so today we're going to be talking about how Moses was bitching to God about how he's going to die, so he needs to name a successor. Well, God plays eeny, meeny, miny Jew and places his finger on Josh to be the successor. Eleazar performs some blood magic type stuff and transforms some of Moses' power to Josh. Of course, we all know if he transfers all of his power, he immediately turns into a pumpkin at midnight. And then apparently God notices the Reubenites and Gadites across the river, and apparently they're grazing on some field or something. And actually, I mean, it looks like some pretty good field for the Israelites. So God's like, why don't y'all go on in over there and just take all that land? God commands them to conquer. Sorry, I can't even read my own handwriting. Conquer the Canaans and to not leave anybody alive. And if you do, so help me. So help me God, but so help me.
I got it. Okay. Help me. I'm there.
But God also says that, don't leave anyone alive or I will fuck you up. Also, while you're at it, kill the Amalekites. They owe me money and they won't pay me back. Then God sets the boundaries. Actually, what he does is he takes his big-ass fingers, dips them in the blood of the Amalekites, and draws the boundaries physically on the earth. And that's why the maps look that way. And then, of course, God says, hey, assign everything by inheritance or something. And that just means the tribes with the bigger tribes get more land and the smaller tribes get fucked. How did I do?
Well, not great.
Not great. Which one? Which part was wrong? Was it the whole kill everybody or so help me?
No, that actually happened. But the Reubenites and Gadites are tribes of Israel. So it's not that he was telling the Israelites to go over and fuck them up and take their land. It's just the Reubenites and the Gadites preferred to have the land east of the Jordan because it was better for all of their herds. And so they didn't want their inheritance in what would become Israel, like in Canaan. They didn't want land in Canaan. They wanted the other land. So it's not like the Israelites went and took land from the Reubenites and Gadites. They already killed all the people in that land. That's the land they wanted instead of the land across the Jordan.
Well, I mean, I kind of figured I had a 50-50 shot with how much God kills his own people.
Well, also, God didn't dip his God fingers in blood and draw map lines.
Don't you recite blasphemy to me.
Okay.
What's up, heathens? How's everybody doing today? I hope you're doing all right. Casey, how you doing?
I'm good, GE. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I mean, we got our Bible studies, so obviously I got some things wrong, and I am here to be taught the correct story.
Yeah.
I think we are going to be jumping around a lot today, so it's easy for to understand how I could get confused.
Yeah, we are jumping around a lot, and if you remember, what we're doing is using the Daily Bible, which is a book. It isn't an actual straight up Bible, right? It's not the King James Version or the New International. It's a Bible that's been essentially slightly reorganized in order to go by timeline, to make it easier to understand, since the Bible's incredibly poorly written to begin with. They just make it a little easier to understand. So we're jumping around a lot today between Numbers and Deuteronomy.
Well, basically what these people were saying is now God, he doesn't know how to tell a proper story. Let's fix this shit and put some puzzle pieces together where they should go instead of whatever the fuck God did.
Yeah, they're going to put it in order. So we're going to start off in Numbers chapter 27, verses 15 through, actually, we're going to go through 23. So that's the only verses we're going to go through for this. But so Moses knows that he will not be allowed to enter the promised land. So his death is imminent. So he's obviously concerned about how the Israelites are going to handle having a different leader, since he's been the only leader that they have ever had. Since they left Egypt, right? So he asks God to help him, and basically, so the Lord's people would not be like sheep without a shepherd. So early on, they realized that the Israelites can't manage on their own. So God said to Moses, "Take Joshua, son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay your hand on him. Have him stand before Eleazar the priest and the entire assembly in commission in their presence. Give him some of your authority so the whole Israelite community will obey him."
Wait a second. So stand up in front of the entire congregation and give him some of your authority?
Yes.
That kind of feels like he's giving them the D. Is that how you transfer power back in them days? You just butt fuck them in front of a whole bunch of people? I mean, if you think about it, it's what God did to Jacob out in the desert and then renamed his ass. I mean, it kind of feels like that would be the way to give power over, especially if it's like divine power.
Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. They aren't really detailed about how that happens. I do know that there are hands laid on him.
That makes it better. Let me lay my hands on you there, Joseph. Now don't pay attention to what I'm doing. Just cough a couple times.
So he's to stand before Eleazar the priest, who will obtain decisions for him by inquiring of the Urim before the Lord. And at his command, the entire community of Israelites will go out, and at his command, they will come in. So Moses did as the Lord commanded him. He took Joshua and had him stand before Eleazar the priest and the whole assembly. He then laid his hands on him and commissioned him as the Lord instructed through Moses.
You know, this has happened a few times already in the Bible, but basically God will be like, hey, do this, and he'll thoroughly explain it. And then the Bible goes on to thoroughly explain how they did it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious if this isn't like some poorly executed like montage. You know, kind of like God's in there saying exactly what he's doing it, and it's like the filmmaker could like put a montage of them executing what God says, and it's just that one time. But no, God's a shitty filmmaker, so he's like, well, I'm going to explain it to you first, and then we're going to take shots of you actually fucking doing it.
Well,
it's going to take up about 30 minutes worth of film.
Well, so that's kind of, have you ever heard of the process? Like, here, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, and then I'm going to tell you how we're going to do it, and then I'm going to tell you what we did.
Yeah.
It's like, you're supposed to do it 3 times so that people remember. It's a literary trick that's often used. It's also used when, I don't know, we use it at my job when we do emails and we have to get responses from people. We have to basically say things 3 times, and there's a certain way to do it to get maximum response from people. It's a psychology thing.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that this whole repetitive nature in the Bible is more of a literary creation that was used to make it easier for people to remember the stories because none of the shit was written down?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So are we good to move on?
Yeah, we are. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So now we're going to jump to Numbers chapter 32, and we're going to start at the beginning of that.
All right, everybody get your pogo sticks and bounce up and down. We're going to jump from here to all the way over the fuck there.
Yeah. So the Reubenites and the Gadites, 2 tribes of Israel.
Like, do you think the Reubenites developed the Reuben sandwich?
Probably.
Okay, well, we can thank them for that.
I don't know. Is corned beef kosher?
I don't know. I thought the only thing that was kosher was that it had to have been a specific animal and a specific place on the animal, and they had to bless it with their glory 3 times or something.
Well, so I don't know all the details of kosher, but I do know it is part of this specific kinds of animals, specific parts of animals. So you're right about that. How you prepare, well, how you kill it. It's also how you kill the animal.
You got to kill it with your dick.
No, you don't. Killing with dick is not kosher. Jews don't eat that.
You're going to tell me they don't eat that when they suck the tips off a little baby dick?
Oh, that is like a really small portion of super Orthodox Jew that do that.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but we're talking about the original Jews.
Well, yeah, I don't know how the original Jews did it, but it is an ancient tradition, an ancient rite, the way that they do that in that particular super Orthodox group. And it actually became a serious problem in New York. I don't know if you know about this, but the largest population of Orthodox Jews outside of Israel is actually in New York. And there are groups that perform circumcisions where they do the cutting and then the sucking, and it's very bizarre to me, I think. But yes. And anyway, what was happening is some of the rabbis that were performing these ceremonies were giving the babies herpes, and they were dying. And like 23 or 25, 20 some odd babies died from contracting herpes from this circumcision, from this particular way to perform circumcision, this Jewish tradition.
Mm-hmm. It's horrible.
Yeah, pretty awful. So, yes. The Reubenites and Gadites, you ready?
Yes.
Very large herds and flocks. So, as they were going through the land towards the Jordan, they saw that there was particular land on the east side of the Jordan before they crossed over into Canaan that was particularly good for raising livestock. So they went to Moses and Eleazar and they asked them, hey, this land over here is great for livestock and we have the most livestock. So we basically want to stay over here. When this whole thing is done, this is the land that we want, instead of inheriting some of the promised land. Essentially, we want to stay on this side. We want to fortify the cities that are already here, rebuild, and have all of this really good land for our livestock. So at first, Moses thought that they were being cowards. He said, "Shall your countrymen go to war while you sit here? Why do you discourage the Israelites from going over into the land the Lord has given them? This is what your fathers did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to look over the land. After they went up into the valley and viewed the land, they discouraged the other Israelites from entering the land the Lord had given them." And then he talks about the Lord's anger being aroused, and it gets kind of kinky. And
so now, were those the guys that like they went there and said that they saw the Nephilim and they came back and then God like slaughters a whole bunch of people?
Yeah, because, and remember, that's where he said that the only one that would remain was Caleb. You remember that?
Right.
Yeah. Because Caleb was like, yeah, we can fuck their shit up. And the rest of them were like, I don't think we can beat all of them. So that's what happened there. So Moses continues after he talks about God's anger, burning and whatever. Maybe he just needs some antibiotics. If it burns when you pee, go to the doctor.
Yes, definitely do. God, you need a doctor up there? I think we can get you some prescription shit.
So Moses says, "And here you are, a brood of sinners, standing in the place of your fathers and making the Lord even more angry with Israel. If you turn away from him, he will again leave all of his people in the desert, and you will be the cause of their destruction." But the Reubenites and Gadites were not interested in not fighting. It's not that they were cowards. They just wanted that land in particular. They liked the land. They wanted the cities. And so they basically tell Moses, no, we would like to build pens here for our livestock and cities for our women and children, but we are ready to arm ourselves and go ahead of the Israelites until we have brought them to their place. Meanwhile, our women and children will live in fortified cities for protection from the inhabitants of the land. We will not return to our homes until every Israelite has received his inheritance. We will not receive any inheritance with them on the other side of the Jordan, because our inheritance has come to us on the east side of the Jordan. So they basically encourage him and say, look, we're not being cowards. We will fight with you, but we don't want the land over there. We want the land over here. So Moses is fine. Moses is like, oh, okay, well, if you'll do this and arm yourselves before the Lord and, go into battle with us and fulfill your obligation to the Lord and to Israel, then this land will be your possession. But if you fail to do this, you'll be sinning against the Lord, and you may be sure that your sin will find you out. Basically, I'm sure if they don't do it, then they're going to die, which is like what always happens, right?
Well, yeah, it's like the sin will find you out. It's like, well, no, God is going to track your ass down, and God is going to get repentance for his sins that he gave you.
Yeah.
And he'll take a baseball bat and knock your knees off. Mafia style.
Yeah. So they again encourage Moses and tell him, we're your servants, we'll do as the Lord commands, and our children and wives, blah, 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 again, right? They go through the whole thing. Well, so then Moses gave orders to Eleazar the priest and announced the agreement that, the Gadites and the Reubenites, and actually also half of Manasseh, which is another tribe, they also want to stay in Gilead. So it's 2.5 tribes that want to remain on the east side of the Jordan. And these cities actually become cities of refuge for anyone who kills people or has problems or gets injured or whatever. When they go into Canaan, the soldiers can come back to these cities that are built up and fortified and safe for them and, have refuge there. So the Reubenites, the Gadites, and half of the tribe of Manasseh go forth and build up the cities, rebuild, because they tore them the fuck up when they killed everybody in them. They built pens, they did all the stuff to prepare their homes and get their families set up and their livestock, and then they went forward and were ready to fight with the Israelites, the rest of the Israelites. Okay, so, and actually the cities of refuge thing, in case you didn't know, was in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 41 through 43. So that was just a little bit that we pulled out of Deuteronomy for that. So we're going to go now back to Numbers chapter 33, but only verse 50 and 56. So God, as you are probably well aware, likes to kill a lot of people.
I mean, it's not just that he likes to kill a lot of people. It's that he purposefully creates scenarios in which to kill them.
Yeah, he does. And when God does conquest, he does it right? Like nobody survives. That's the shtick.
You could easily explain this with the time period that they're in, and that's exactly just how societies different societies worked back then. They would just go in and kill the entire place. You could explain this with natural reasons and history and all this other stuff, but nope, God ordered it.
Yeah, actually it was very normal at the time. It was for any kingdom that would go to another kingdom and take over, any kind of conquest or anything like that. That was completely normal to kill everyone, and not just the men, the women and children. They killed everyone, so that it wouldn't come back to bite them in the ass later.
Yeah, which I'm only pointing this out right now because of the whole objective morality argument that Christians levy. They always like to levy that against atheists in general. And, to take the Old Testament, what we're about to get into, and say that God always knew that it was wrong for people to kill other people, I'm going to have to say bullshit. Because this is obviously after the 10 Commandments, but yet God is having them kill, innocent little children. I can't think of a fucking thing that a child could do that would deserve death.
Well, they worship false idols. Of course, they don't have the word of God. They don't have the word of Yahweh. They don't know anything. Not that they don't necessarily know anything about him, but probably not. Within the story, they certainly wouldn't, because each area kind of has their own thing.
While I agree they didn't have, the word of God or whatever, I guess it's just me with my higher sense of morality that I don't think that a kid, let alone his entire family, believing in a different God and not bothering anybody else is harmful to anybody. And I don't think it deserves for them to be killed.
But they should have known God because God is written on all of our hearts, right?
God is written on all of our hearts, and you should definitely know that shit. Now I'm going to stab you through the gut. Hey, at least I didn't say dick.
Yeah.
But then I just did. Anyways, continue.
So God says, when you cross the Jordan into Canaan, drive out all of the inhabitants of the land before you, destroy all of their carved images and their cast idols, and demolish all of their high places. Take possession of the land and settle in it, for I have given you the land to possess. Distribute the land by lot, according to your clans. To a larger group give a larger inheritance, and to smaller group give a smaller one. Whatever falls to them by lot will be theirs, distributed according to your ancestral tribes. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land, those you allow to remain will become barbs in your eyes and thorns in your side. They will give you trouble in the land where you will live, and then I will do to you what I plan to do to them. So God basically says, if you don't fuck them all up, I'll fuck you up. Essentially.
That is the way of the Lord.
It is. It is. So I think that this part is interesting. The Israelites don't destroy all of the idols.
Oh, shit. They disrespected the Lord?
Well, we're going to get to it later.
Ooh, the Lord's glory is not going to be happy.
Well, but I mean, you know how, as in past experience, the Israelites don't wholly comply with God's directives. So they will fall repeatedly into religious apostasy, and they do this over and over again. It becomes a normal thing, and obviously God's pissed about it. We're going to read all about that. But the people do not comply exactly.
All right, let's get this shit show going.
Okay, so now we're back to Deuteronomy for a short time, chapter 25, verses 17 through 19. God also commands that the Israelites kill all of the Amalekites and reminds them about how when they came out of Egypt, the Amalekites attacked them. And so basically says, when I give you rest from all of the enemies around you in the land, I'm giving you to possess as inheritance. Blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Do not forget. So basically he's saying all of the Amalekites should die. Nobody will ever even remember that they were here.
Wow.
But then we're reading about it in the Bible, so.
Nobody will remember except for this record that we are just keeping. Hey, maybe we should delete this shit, huh, God? Don't you delete my diary.
Okay, so back into Numbers chapter 34. We're starting at the beginning of that now. So now what God does is he tells them what their boundaries are, the borders of the land. And he says, when they enter Canaan, the land that will be allotted to you as inheritance will have these boundaries. Your southern side will include some of the desert of Zin along the border of Edom. On the east, your southern boundary will start from the end of the Salt Sea, which is the Dead Sea, for like real life people here, across the south of Scorpion, which is also not a place anymore, pass and continue on to Zin and go south of Kadesh Barnea. Then it will go on to Hazar Adar and over to Asmon, where it will turn and join the Wadi of Egypt and end at the sea. And this time the sea that they're talking about is the Mediterranean Sea. So that is the southern border.
Okay.
Okay, the western boundary will be the coast of the Great Sea. And that's all it says. They'll get the coast. Okay. The northern boundaries, they're going to run from the Great Sea to Mount Hor, and from Mount Hor to Lebo, which is, let's see, what is Lebo? Oh, no, that's the place. Okay, so... Sorry.
I rather envy the people that get Mount Hor. I really don't. No, scratch that. Don't look at me like that, honey.
What? So anyway, sorry. I kind of got a little confused. There's a lot of, like, big words here.
Well, you see, that's the benefit of this particular podcast. Just make the shit up.
Yeah.
Just think of a funny way to pronounce it, and then that's it.
Yeah, so they go to Mount Hor and then to Lebo Hamath, and then the boundary will go to Zedad and continue on to Ziphron and end at Hazar Enan. This will be your boundary on the north.
You see, I would have fun with all them names. Like, then they go to the lesbian town, and then they get on over to Ziggy Zag, and then they get on to Zac Efron.
Do you want to read this part? You want to read the eastern boundary?
Here, let me try the eastern boundary, see if I can get... I feel like you guys might be falling asleep a little bit if you're still listening.
Did you just say I'm boring?
I'm saying that I can make it festive.
Oh, okay. Well, you make it festive there, G.
Eastern boundaries. For your eastern boundary, run a line from Hazah and Enan to Shepherds. The boundary will go down from Shepherds to Ribs. And on the east side of the Een, and continue along the slopes east of the sea to Kenneth.
And for those of you who don't know, Kinnereth is actually Galilee. So
Kenneth is actually a place?
Kinnereth is Galilee.
Oh, okay. The boundary will go down along the Jordan and end at the Salt Sea. See, it ended fine. Remember, Kenneth lives in Galilee.
Again, the Salt Sea is the Dead Sea. For like, let's pull this into reality, which is really weird because it's not. But anyway, this will be your land with its boundaries on every side.
You know what place on Earth is saltier than the Dead Sea?
I don't know. Milwaukee in September.
Yes.
Salt miss. Okay, so Moses commanded the Israelites. We're still in Numbers chapter 34. We're continuing on. So Moses commanded the Israelites, again, assign the land by inheritance. The tribes with more people get more land. The tribes with fewer people get less land. And he basically just goes on from that and then reminds them that the tribes of Reuben and Gad and half of Manasseh are going to be going back to the east of the Jordan.
Does anybody else think of like, what's his name? Reuben from the Reuben Report? I can't remember.
Dave Reuben.
Dave Reuben and Gad Sad Gad, whatever his name is.
I don't know who that is.
He's an online personality. I just think of both of them, and they're trying to negotiate new land or keeping the one lands instead of moving to the new ones.
Okay, well, do you want to call him Dave Reuben and Gad Sad?
Yeah, they are now officially Dave Reuben and Gad Sad.
What about Manasseh?
Manasseh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That sounds like an old Southern black lady.
Does it?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I get from it.
Okay, it's a Jew.
Jews can be black.
Yeah. Okay. So the Lord said to Moses, these are the names of the men who are to assign the land for you as your inheritance. Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun, and appoint one leader from each tribe to help assign the land.
Wait, is it son of Nun? Like he miraculously popped here on earth like Jesus?
No, N-U-N.
Yeah, oh, okay. Like a nun, like the nuns in the
Catholic Church.
Catholic Church, yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So
like the Sisters of the Poor.
Right, so he was born of the Sisters of the Poor. Aren't they not supposed to fuck? I thought they weren't supposed to fuck.
No, the person's name was Nun, and it was a man. You know they don't name women in the Bible. Are you crazy?
They do name women in the Bible. There
Very
was Sarah.
When they say son of, they're talking about the dude.
Well, I understand that, but the nun part kind of threw my simple brain off.
Okay. So right now, Numbers goes through the list of appointees from each tribe. So they go through the person's name, son of who, from the tribe of this, and they do this for all of the tribes. I'm not doing it. Do you want to do names here?
Let me see.
Let's let GE do fun names here.
Let me see what I can come up with. This ought to be fun. Caleb, son of Jepper, from the tribe of Judah. Samuel, son of Amminadab, from the tribe of Simeon. Eldad, son of Cushner, from the tribe of Benji. Buki, son of Jogli? What the fuck? I could have swore that this was Bukaki, son of Jigjog. The leader for the tribe of Dan. Oh, I love me Dan.
Tribe of Dan.
Haniel, son of Ephesians. The leader from the tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph.
Yeah, so the other half of Manasseh, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you. The other half of Manasseh decided to go on into Canaan, and they wanted their inheritance in the Holy Land, unlike the other half who wanted to stay on the east of the Jordan. Sorry, continue.
Chemi, son of Shittan, leader from the tribe of Ephesians, son of Joseph. Another Ephesian, son of Parnishus, this leader from the tribe of Zibizeba. Paltiel, son of Hazan, the leader from the tribe of Issachar. Why can't these people have regular fucking names? I mean, come on.
You know that when you call the 800 numbers and they answer the phone and they're like, hello.
My name is Paul.
My name is Steve. I know your name's not Steve.
Come on there, Angie Wall. I know who you are. You ain't got to bullshit me.
So these people's names are interesting, but we know one of them's not named Dan.
Look, there's a Pato, son of Amminadab, the leader of the tribe of Naphtali. I don't know. I couldn't come up with very funny names. I'm sorry, people.
Okay, so these are
okay, that was a shit show. Let's go ahead and let's redirect. Let's get people back onto this thing.
These are the men the Lord commanded to assign the inheritance to the Israelite in the land of Canaan. Okay, so now we're going to go Numbers chapter 35, cities for the Levites. So if you recall, the Levites don't actually get their own inheritance. They get part of everybody else's inheritance, and each of the tribes of Israel basically gives some to the Levites. So God tells Moses, command the Israelites to give the Levites town to live in from the inheritance that the Israelites will possess, and give them pasture lands from around the towns. Then they will have towns to live in and pasture lands for their cattle, flocks, and all the other livestock. The pasture lands around the towns that you give the Levites will extend out 1,500 feet from the town wall. Outside the town, measure 3,000 feet on the east side, 3,000 feet on the south side, 3,000 feet on the west side, and 3,000 feet on the north side, with the town in the center. They will have this area as pasture land for the towns. 6 of the towns you give the Levites will be cities of refuge, to which a person who has killed someone may flee. In addition, give them 42 other towns. All, you must give the Levites 48 towns together with their pasture lands. The towns you give the Levites from the land the Israelites possess are to be given in proportion to the inheritance of each tribe. Take many towns from the tribes that have many, but few towns from the ones that have few.
Okay, that's really kind of going over my head. I don't understand what the take fewer towns from the fewer tribes.
Well, so the land that they're going to inherit, the tribes with more people get more land, right?
Okay.
Well, along with the land, there's also already cities and shit there. There's cities and towns and everything already there. So basically, you're going to have huge chunks of land that are given to any given tribe, and that tribe has to basically donate. They have to tithe. They have to tithe essentially some of their land to the Levites. So God wants to make sure that the Levites not only have just plain land, like he wants to make sure that they get towns and that they get pasture land and that they're taken care of just like everybody else, because they don't inherit the same way as everyone else does.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
So that's all for this week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So next week, we're going to go through Moses reviewing the history, beginning from his first address with all of Israel in the desert east of the Jordan, through Sinai, because Moses had a journal. Remember, we sort of talked about this. Moses kept a journal of all of their time and what they did. We're going to recap in Deuteronomy is when they do this. They recap everything, sending the spies, cowardice, penalty for cowardice, which is, as we know, 40 years in the desert, invasions, waiting for the doubters' deaths. So basically they had to spend all that time in the desert for all those people to die. Then the defeat of the Amorites, defeat of the Bashanites. We're going to go through all of these things, and we're going to talk about why the leadership changed. We're going to talk about how the greatest threat to Israel is idolatry. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going to do next time. Okay. So we have next time. So next week, the week following, and the week after that. And then we get to do the laws of Moses.
Yay. The laws of Moses.
I know. So next month in March, we'll be doing the laws of Moses, and I cannot wait to do the laws of Moses. There are laws in Deuteronomy, Numbers. What other books are they in? Leviticus and Exodus. So we're going to go through all the laws that are throughout those 4 books, and they're categorized by law type, right? So like we're going to talk about how they atone, how they do offerings. We're going to talk about all kinds of shit. Laws of the Sabbath, special instructions for conquest, sacrifices and offerings. We're going to talk about how to deal with dead bodies and contact with dead bodies. We're going to talk about kidnapping, mayhem. We're going to talk about rape. We're going to talk about all the laws, and theft of personal property, personal rights and remedies. We're going to go over all of these things, and I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because pretty much everything you get killed for.
Yeah, I'm really excited to go through the laws of Moses. It's going to be super interesting, much more so than what we've been doing before. And then once we finish the laws, we'll be done with the first 5 books of the Bible, also known as the books of Moses.
Well, that just sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So I hope you heathens are prepared for that little bit of a bloodbath. And we're going to try not to be sociopathic about it because we care.
We do? Oh, yes, we do. We care.
A lot. We don't want to see the Jews dying. I mean, that's what anti-Semites want to see.
Well, that's true. Oh, they even talk about divorce.
Oh,
and about marrying captive women.
God is kind of an anti-Semite.
It seems so.
And I'm just saying, guys, God does not like the Jews all that much.
Yeah.
But anyways, heathens, I hope you will tune in, whatever the fuck I was trying to say. Hope you will tune in next week when we cover all of these lovely topics of whatever the fuck we just said. And then, I really only remember what we cover in each episode.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go through, we're going to basically next week and the week after, we're going to be recapping essentially what's happened since they left Egypt.
Okay. So it's just, it's what the Bible does best, and that's repeat itself.
Well, and so maybe next week what we'll do is, if I go through it and it's too much like repeating and it's going to be kind of boring, we can maybe just go through if there's anything we haven't touched on yet. And skip through it pretty quickly, and maybe we can do a couple episodes in one, like a couple days in one. I'm not really sure. I'll have to read through it and see if there's anything new. If it's all just a repeat of the same shit, maybe we can just skip it.
Well, yeah, I mean, because again, like you pointed out earlier in this particular episode, it's a literary device so that people can remember the shit.
Well, yeah, and they do this at the beginning of they do this in Deuteronomy. They explain it all. Well, they went through it all, and now they're saying, okay, this is a summary of what we just talked about. Here's a summary of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about it, and then here's what we just talked about. So that's kind of what they're doing, and I get it, but I don't think we necessarily need to do that. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we can get to the laws sooner than later.
We'll have to see. But anyways, heathens, I hope you will tune in next week, and we will see you then.
Don't forget to stand up and use your voice.
Bye, heathens.
Bye, y'all.